6:46, our work session starts, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, sir.
All
Not
council
tonight.
attendance, nobody
What?
left. I wasn't quite done though.
Okay, I apologize. Trying to get you out of here.
I know.
Thank you.
Stormwater utility.
Right. We thought while we had a captive audience, we just follow up on this topic. There were a few council members that were able to make the last work session and heard some of this before, but we'll go ahead and regurgitate it and fill the gaps in. And then if you have questions, this would be a good forum to try to get some of those questions answered. You do have in your packet, we put together a sheet that kind of highlights the work of the Stormwater Utility Committee. There is a proposed ordinance that's also within your packet. I'm just going to share the key components of that. Basically, it's setting up a public utility for stormwater. It's basically an enterprise, it would be an enterprise fund, just like water and sewer, but specifically for stormwater. No more than 30% of the general revenue per year could go towards operating costs. The committee wanted to see a focus on capital projects and getting infrastructure repaired and replaced, as opposed to having a lot of operational costs covered. So they capped a maximum of 30% a year is what they have proposed. There would be joint oversight of this utility by the city engineer and the city wastewater superintendent. The ordinance calls for an annual report generated at the request of City Council or the Stormwater Review Committee. Right now, the committee came up with a $5 flat fee per month per meter added to all utility bills, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial. We get into some items to possibly discuss. That's one that's noted. So right now, if you have a water meter, the proposal would be there'd be a $5 charge on the bill each month, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial. There would be no automatic increases proposed within the first 5 years. Now, right now, as currently proposed, extraterritorial customers outside the city who may have water or sewer service from the city would be charged this fee. Again, another topic for discussion here in a minute. Set to start in January 2017. Where we are now, we're not introducing it tonight, obviously, so we may be a little bit later than that on getting it to council and potentially implemented. 30-day delinquencies handled in the same way as other utility non-payments. The Stormwater Review Committee wanted to basically every 5 years require a review of this fee, how it's being used, basically reconvene a committee that would look at how the stormwater utilities work for that 5-year period, propose any increases, those type of things. And they would have to have, I believe, a minimum of 7 members every 5 years when they reconvene. No more than a 10% increase to any flat fee at the review period. You can also see the Stormwater Review Committee. We have in your packet, you received a list of the committee members who participated. We did have business, industry, nonprofit, residents. Tried to get a pretty broad swath. The committee did meet 6 times, and we had pretty good participation at all the meetings. So going forward, some things to think about. One thing would be potentially a phased approach to implementing the $5 fee, or whatever council felt if they felt the fee should be differently. Maybe a way of stepping it up over a period of 5 years to get to where the proposal lies. It's a possibility. Another discussion that the committee had quite a bit of discussion around was a tiered approach, where maybe residential, commercial, and industrial have different structure. For example, if it's 5, maybe it's 5, 10, or 15, or it's 2, 4, 6, or it's that has ramifications for the budget itself. There's a budget in here that's proposed. Basically, depending on the number you plug in, that budget adjusts in the Excel spreadsheet that we've put together. Again, outside city counts would be subject to the fee as currently proposed. The council should weigh in on that, take a look at that. In addition to capital projects and general operating expenditures, the fund could be used to repair curb and gutter throughout the city as streets are repaved. Right now, we don't have enough funding to keep up with street paving, but if you think of curbs and gutters as a function of a stormwater system, this may be a mechanism, as we've talked about, trying to get some of the curbs addressed, potentially using some of this money each year, married with the paving program, so that basically if a street was going to be paved, we'd repair, replace curb and gutter as funds allow in advance of that paving. So this might be a mechanism of getting some of that work done. I think we all know as citizens that our curbs are one of our poorest infrastructure items at this point.
So what
Probably
are
worse
curbs?
than our streets.
So what are curbs for?
Keep the traffic on the road and to convey water to a catch basin.
There you go, okay, that's all.
Another potential use of the fund right now, we are in need of a new street sweeper, which is quite a high dollar capital item. We could look at a contract model where we would have a contract for all streets to be swept on a schedule. Right now, we don't really have a set schedule, and this would allow us to, show that as a deliverable to the community that the streets are able to be swept on a more frequent basis and not also have to spend so much on a piece of equipment. We probably retain the one we have and be able to use it as we are now, but we would at least have a set schedule. So that would be part of the program as well, because sweeping streets is a function of keeping the stormwater system clean, keeping debris out, keeping things out of the river, that type of thing. So ultimately everything drains to the Mad River, so if we don't clean it up, that's where it's heading. So again, you've got a list of some potential upcoming projects. You've got the committee membership, our meeting attendance. So you can see we averaged anywhere from 14 to 10 at a meeting, out of the 6 meetings. Again, there's a proposed budget right now on the operating side. The proposal is to use our labor force that we have right now, that's already performing some of these functions, but in other areas, as far as where they're being paid from. So you see force account labor. There's a line item for contract sweeping, potentially a vehicle down the road. Mainly focusing on projects, and curb and gutter would be the main thing on the capital side. So again, we've talked about there are some grant opportunities that we've gotten with stormwater, but we've used basically our street paving budget as local match for those grants to make stormwater projects happen, which comes at the expense of paving the street. So this would kind of help with that. It would also help in having, there's a couple grant sources that pretty much 50% of the project you have to have the funding in order to be competitive enough. We don't have that money from year to year to do it without having something set aside. So again, larger focus on capital, but there are those items to consider as we bring this forward, and if there's some tweaks that council wants to see. Ultimately, council needs to discuss those and decide before moving an ordinance forward. We have one member here tonight, Kirk McCreary. He was a resident that was involved in the committee all the way through. So if you have a question specifically for the committee, maybe Kirk could answer it from the committee's perspective. So I'm a non-voting member. I was just there at the meetings.
Start with you, Ray, go ahead.
How many people was on this committee? Stormwater.
Our attendance varied between 10 and 14, and that excludes city staff with the exception of the city engineer and the wastewater superintendent. So if myself or Brianne or Chris was there, that's not counted in the attendance.
The voting,
The voting membership was the only 2 city staff members. The rest were people from the
well,
community.
we had three of these committee members come to our last court session,
Right.
and the third guy that come in, he is not for this, period.
Yeah.
He said something about others. How many members are really for it, and how many was against it?
It's like anything else. You're not necessarily going to have unanimous across the board. This is what everybody wants, kind of thing. The member you're speaking to, he feels very strongly, and I think he'll come to the public hearing that would be required when we
The
move
vote-
this forward.
The vote on the final proposal was detailed in the last set of minutes from the Stormwater Committee. They did an actual vote. They didn't just do a voice vote in terms of what the proposal was that was set forth.
True.
I think it was two 4?
No, 2 against and 4 for, right?
Yeah, I'd have to look back at those minutes, but his argument is we should be looking at the income tax increase, and use that to offset this cost. So that's the argument that he has, and he spoke a few minutes at the last work session we had, and like I said, I think he'll come to the public hearing and express where he's coming from on that item. But I think overall, I think everyone understood the value of us needing to do something with this infrastructure. So how we get there from a funding standpoint, yes, there may have been some disagreement, but I think everybody agreed that we need to do something to address stormwater specifically. So
That's all I have.
Convenient. A couple things, talking with people out in the public and going over some of this stuff. I think, like, as you said, a gradual increase rather than just a plot, $5 right there, might be a solution to ease the blow. Everybody knows that I talk to, so, we got certain areas of our community don't have curbs or anything like this. We gotta have it. I believe the fourth ward is hurting during times of a lot of water, a lot of rain. I know I got friends that live down on Pender, they flood out all the time. When we have bad, what do? We just say no to them, and, we can't just overlook that. We gotta do something, so, again, this is a touchy subject, but we gotta do something about the community.
I don't have any questions at this point. We'll get down the road a little bit.
It seems you're making the street department almost obsolete. The way this is written, they have, our engineer and stormwater head have control of everything that is now involved with our street department.
It'd be a force account situation.
Beg pardon?
It'd be a force account situation if there's like the street sweeping. If the street department does the work, it would be accountable back to that stormwater utility. Because when a street is swept, it's to keep the stuff out of the catch basins, that sort of thing. But the street department also has other things with respect to the paving and the maintenance of the actual street itself. And plowing snow, things like that.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go that they're obsolete.
their staffing's down too. I mean, we've had, Carrie could speak to that more, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
have less workforce in the street department, which, we're trying to keep up with what we have on the general fund side. So, like I said, we're just not able to even sweep on a regular schedule. So, this might be a way of doing that and helping with some of the cost of equipment that's ultimately related to stormwater. Leafing, picking up leaves is a function of the stormwater system too. You gotta get them out of the gutter. So.
Mr. Paul.
So the ordinance itself, they did all their calculations based on $5, which I would think, I wouldn't wanna necessarily mess with too much unless we had some great urgent need, that's something that had to absolutely be done, in 2018. So I think, and I would think that it's gonna be reviewed again in 5 years. They could get a thumbs down from the committee, they could say this isn't working, we're gonna stop it. So, I mean, I would think it would make sense to say, we're putting $5 on the bill, let's start generating the money so we can start doing some projects. As opposed to doing $1 or $2. By the time you get actually the full amount, you're at your 5 years, and then you're reviewing everything again. And then you may have another increase, you may have your 10% increase. So, hey, we're at $5. Oh, no, we're not, we're gonna go to $5.50 because we need to raise another 10%. So, I mean, I would just be in favor, assuming this passes, to just do the $5, be done with it, take the hit, and start generating the money that we all know we need, and these projects need to get done. I'm trying to find the number of what we thought we were gonna generate next year.
Total, if you went with the $5 model, it's towards the back of the packet, 291,180 is what, and that's based on active meters.
And that would also be based on a 12-month collection,
Right.
so that wouldn't be raised in 2017.
So we kind of be looking at maybe 2018 before we see a full project done. But theoretically, it's almost $600,000 if you are looking at grant money, the 50-50 split. I mean, you could really leverage.
You would have some carryovers from year to year where you would know you had a project coming up or something that you needed, more money for, and you would potentially let some of that money build up, so
Right.
you've got enough the next year.
But at least we're doing projects as opposed to deciding which projects not to do because we don't have money. And we're finally getting on a maintenance schedule, perhaps, which we've talked about many times over the past few years, that we haven't been able to get ahead of because things have been kicked down the road so many times in the past, I don't know how many decades. I don't know. I just think you do the $5. If we're gonna do the utility, do it as a utility, do the $5 charge, take the hit, you'll get some angry phone calls, and don't make any promises for 2017, and we hopefully start to see things moving on in 2018. That's just kind of my perspective on things.
I'd be surprised if it happened that quick. I would think you'd wanna stockpile 3-4 years. So you've got a good match. If you're gonna give a 50-50 grant, do a $600,000 project, you're gonna have to have 300,000 more money.
Yeah. Sure.
And the budget, the way the budget projections look out, like I think on the fourth year is a lump sum. So if you could go out and get one of those big grants, and if you look at the first, after the US 36 project, the next two, actually the next three are, Pender, Railroad Street, and West Lake. And those are probably the focus areas right now that have the biggest issues when it comes to water, stormwater. So, those would be big chunks of money that in order for us to address them. I know the Railroad Street, all three of these, we talked, Mike Heinz was here when I first started.
Those estimates haven't been updated, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So
So
we-
these numbers in here are pretty old?
Very old.
Yeah.
Oh, darn, okay.
But they're
That's
kind of.
depressing.
they're
I was like, what we do it?
designed.
Put
Yeah,
an increase
they're-
in now.
Yeah, he did create plans and came up with an estimate, but you think Mike's been gone for a few years from us, and they're his estimates, where these numbers are from.
But the designs are done and all that, it's a matter of just kind of getting current pricing, and it wouldn't take long to turn them around. The point is, these are things we've been talking about for a number of years, and just, if we do them, the only way you're gonna get them done is you're not gonna do some other things. You're not gonna pave streets, and you're not gonna do some other capital items that need to be done. Then you're gonna come back around and say, well, why is the streets rough? Well, because we use the money somewhere else. So
Right.
just, I guess to your point, Dwight mentioned earlier, the Columbia Gas letter we got. And, how do you think they're paying for all this work we've done locally? They're not doing it out of their monthly budget. They're doing it out of these fees that they're putting in for infrastructure. And it's not just Columbia Gas. You see it on your phone bill, you see it on all your bills, that they're not paying for it off these monthly uses.
But it sure would be nice to tell, particularly some of the folks in the fourth ward,
Absolutely.
okay, it's not gonna happen next year, it's not gonna happen the year after, but, hey, we've got a plan, already got plans. We're starting to generate money to make this happen. And in my mind, it's kind of similar to what we just did with the floodplains. Looking at the cost for that, trying to get some people out of the floodplain for insurance. It's maybe a small thing for everybody in the city, but, that impacts some people. So, I just see this as something that's gonna move us forward a little bit. Yeah, we'll get yelled at by some people because they don't wanna pay $5 a month. I get it, but I think it's something we really need.
We've talked about in the first year of its infancy that as a deliverable of the community seeing their money at work, it may not be a large project off the bat, but if it's scheduled street sweeping, I think that goes a long way. And seeing something happen with the curb and gutter. Tyler's starting to put together the paving next year, and if we put it towards some of this money towards curb and gutter, we prioritize it based on streets that are being resurfaced. Because there's a lot of streets we've resurfaced that when the grinding machine goes through, it grinds through whatever curb's there, and in most cases, there's not much curb there. The snowplow damage is not snowplow damage, it's because the curb's that high,
Right.
and you kick it and it moves,
Well,
I've experienced that, so.
I've talked to a few people about this just to kind of gauge what people are thinking, and I've got some positive feedback. Everybody knows this is an issue, and I don't think anybody expects us with $6,000 left over in the budget at the end of the year to be able to do what we need to get done. So I don't think this is going to come as any surprise to anybody. So, thank you.
Mr. Hoffman?
It's an infrastructure project, so it's important to me. If we don't do anything, nothing's gonna happen.
these things deteriorating continuously. So, I do understand where some people are coming from that are on fixed income. I understand that. I don't make decisions like this or take them lightly. But, I see our stormwater as kind of like, we have the operational side, which the city's been kind of doing the best they can out of different departments, but then you've got the capital side, so that's not gonna happen if we don't get some funding. These projects aren't small projects. Carrie or Doug, what would you, if you had to rank our stormwater inside the city limits 1 to 10, where do you think we're at in your mind, if you had to go to a scale?
I would say holistically, I'd say we're probably about a 5, 4, 5, 6.
Now, do you see, without this here, do you see that going up, or do you see it going down?
It'll get worse before it gets better, I mean.
Right. And so when it gets worse, then it's gonna cost even more than what it costs now. It's like if you got a leak in your roof, you gotta fix the leak in your roof. If you don't, then you gotta fix the leak in the roof and the drywall and the flooring. So, I don't want people to think this is catastrophic DEFCON 5, but as a responsible group of people, we gotta look to the future and make sure that we plan for these things. Because you're already talking, however many years out, and I know if we don't do anything, it's gonna be that many plus the number of years we don't do anything as well, so. I'm okay with the ordinance the way it reads. I've gotta look through it. I mean, we talked about it in work session. I like the 555, some people say, well, why don't you tax the businesses a little bit more? In theory, that sounds good, except that there's far more residents than there are businesses or corporations. You also have to remember some of these businesses aren't large businesses, so it's not like you can go windfall tax someone a big lump sum. It doesn't add up, it doesn't compute. You might drop it from 5 to 450 if you go heavily tax everyone else. So the 555 model is not too bad. I also agree with some of the people talking about going to an income tax. The thing I dislike about that is that these funds they'll be earmarked now. So it'll be part of a program that has to be spent in the proper location. We go income tax, all of a sudden now, year to year, people can pull from and give back to and things like that, and I don't like that. I like the money staying for its design purpose. The last item, to what Cletus had said, I completely understand why this fund would pay back a department for work. Essentially, they're kind of a subcontractor to the fund. If the street department is going out and doing something that's stormwater related, their budget or what have you should receive those funds. It's a way of taking some of the money and putting it back to where it was basically stolen from in the very beginning. So, which is a good thing, because now we've got a street department that can either put money into paving, or they can spend more time doing things that are important. So, I'm sure we'll have more conversations. Right now, on the onset, I like it. I've gotten a few negative feedbacks, but mostly people are like, look, no one likes it, but it needs to be done. So, and we'll see over the next couple of weeks. We'll see what kind of feedback we get. I encourage anybody to call me if they have any negative feedback or positive. It'd be nice to know. So, that's all I have.
Mr. Fields.
Sounds good. I mean, from what I've read into it and everything, I'm getting a lot of negative feedback because for one thing, people don't want to spend that money. But I definitely see what you're saying, which has been a long time coming. It's something we should have done a long time ago when the economy was better, but these things need to be taken care of. If you can take that money and show people, in a yearly basis, what you're, like you say, is street sweeping. They're getting to see something for their money, rather than not giving them anything. So, and if we look at the critical wards and try to get these people's homes that are getting flooded out down the fourth ward, that's one of the things that we need to do as a city, and as council people, be responsible for trying to keep people's homes from getting, all that stuff and everything. So I'm for it, but I'm still listening to my constituents.
So can I ask a question? I will.
Session.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay, so if we don't do it this way, and we say curbs and gutters and everything are very important, because we do have issues, particularly in the fourth ward, what are we willing to give up? What are we willing to not do to do this instead, if this is this important?
I think that'd be a question for administration. What could we do? I mean, what's the options? But I wouldn't want to take anything off the everybody, I think everybody's for it, but I don't
So,
know.
so there's your answer, okay.
Yeah.
Well, a couple quick comments too, I went to, I think, all but one meeting, and sat, fly on the wall, obviously not participating in terms of content, but I think, first of all, I think as you read through, get more, you digest this before the next meeting, especially before the public hearing, I think, stop and think what you asked the committee to do. I think they did an excellent job to do what council asked them to do. So they brought back their recommendation. I think, you really need to understand that. The other part, talking about, well, what if you did an income tax? Well, the charter requires income tax to split 75-25, 75% operations, 25% capital. One of the things that a lot of discussion that I saw or heard when I was at the meetings was, we need to focus on infrastructure, we need to focus on capital. You bring it in an income tax, you're flip-flopping. You're spending your money on operations and not capital. And that's, to get the biggest bang where you need it, you kind of need to have that directed fund that you can put where you want it and be held accountable for doing it. So I think as you read through, digest all the different attachments, I think Doug, Tyler, the rest of the group did an excellent job putting all this together, so it's pretty readable. I would encourage you to ask questions. If you have any before the next meeting, obviously feel free to ask them. So, nothing's ever easy, and that's not palatable, but if it's, you gotta, I think, look at what you're looking at and how you got here. You asked for it, now you got it. I think we need to chew on it for a little bit.
They did talk a lot about doing the tiered approach, like Doug had mentioned. And I think they kind of felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they kind of felt for simplicity's sake, they just went with a flat rate for everybody. So it wasn't based on some convoluted algorithm of how much asphalt you have, or how much roof space, or how big your lot is, and all those other things you can't explain. Just keep it simple. So I think, I like that aspect of it. It's very easy to say, it's $5 for you, it's $5 for you, it's $5 for you.
And us.
And us and everybody else, right. So, I thought the committee did a great job.
The two no votes, though, were because of the method of payment, whether it should be tiered or not, or were there other issues that those two had? Just question on that.
I think at least one of those was a proponent of an income, looking at an income
That would
tax
be one.
increase and using the additional revenue coming in
Right.
for stormwater and other things. So
Okay.
let the voters vote on it, but it doesn't. These utilities can be implemented through legislative
Sure.
action. So
It probably should be. I just was curious. The two that said no, the reasons that they were saying no.
yeah, I think that's
So that's-
simply that's at least one of them. The other one I'd have to look back and see.
Okay.
What the,
Property tax.
Doug,
yes.
if I may, the two no votes, that was for the difference between the flat fee and the tiered fee.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that was my question.
So in the end, was it unanimous in the end as far as the points of the ordinance that we've received? Or were there still no votes on the final flat $5 and?
That was the.
Okay, never mind, I understand what you're saying.
That was the
Yeah.
two votes.
Okay.
Well,
So-
one guy-
Yeah, because the vote was to adopt the
Yeah.
draft ordinance to submit to
Okay.
council.
Primarily whether it should be flat or tiered.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you.
You're probably gonna get a little pushback anyhow when somebody who didn't wanna pay the $5 says, well, I'm gonna pay the same as Walmart.
That's correct.
That's gonna be there are gonna be those that are gonna say that.
That is correct.
But you're not paying for usage, you're paying for maintaining the system.
Well,
It's
there,
not like
no, what I'm
metering,
saying is,
you
Joe
know.
Blow that earns $15,000 a year in a little house is gonna say, my $5 is going the same place as the multi-billion-dollar corporation's money's going, $5. That's where they're gonna push back.
Most of them have their own detention, most of them have their own ponds that their water runs off into. Most of our places,
So
they've
it's
got
not
market
bad,
lots
but
and everything else,
we
their
gotta do
water's not really getting the system the same.
Well,
They could argue just the
any
opposite.
big
Yeah.
corporate, AutoZone, they don't have a retention.
Not quite as-
We're, McDonald's, they're using the streets the same as we are.
But I think it's gonna be the same pushback we got back when we put the compost, the dollar or whatever it was on the compost, people didn't like it.
Or the recycling.
You know,
Yeah. You're gonna get it.
so. But people use it.
You're at 30 minutes.
Right.
I have one thing to say to council.
this is another budget item. I suggest you look over this budget very carefully, the proposed budget, because you have the final say on how this money gets spent. And that's how you gotta tell the people you're gonna do it. So make sure that everything in here is the way you want it. I mean, I know you came up with a budget, and what to do with it, but you guys are gonna be responsible for that money. You're the ones that gotta look at this budget and say, I want this spent here. This is an income source, so if they wanna borrow money for a project to do next year, pay it off in 4 years, you can do that. This is an income source to borrow money. You have to have an income source to borrow money. This gives you an income source to borrow money to do projects. So you wouldn't have to wait 4 years to do a project. But you're gonna have to dedicate all that money to the project.
Yeah,
I just wanna say that and make sure you guys realize that that's part of your job, is to look at this budget and make sure your money. If you're gonna ask for it, you gotta know how you're gonna spend it.
Marty's correct, there would be a budget attached to the ordinance. So you would be, if you passed it, you'd be passing a budget and an ordinance to establish it at the same, I don't know if they'd be same legislation or separate, but.
You'd be the same.
Same.
You say how the money's spent.
Yeah, cause it'd be considered a supplemental appropriation for 17.
Yep.
So the draft ordinance is attached. There's also a fee comparison. We looked around at our peers in the area. You see Bell Fountain has one, Marysville, Springfield, Piqua, Sydney. London did not. And there's some other ones in there for comparison's sake too that are maybe not adjacent, but in our region.
Generally finds it the same way. We're talking.
It varies.
Yeah.
There's some that do the flat fee, and there's some that do the ERU. Majority are the ERU, but it is to Dwight's point, it's very complicated. You have to figure your impervious surface for every commercial and industrial property.
But there are some flat fee ones that.
Yeah, there are flat
successful.
fee out there as well.
Yeah, Union did the tier based residential, commercial, and industrial.
Yeah. I think Wapakoneta is on there as a
Wapakoneta's
flat
another
fee.
one. Looks like they did flat, and ours would be more expensive, but I think they did theirs, looks like in 1995, so we're still gonna be playing catch up for a long time.
On the simplest comparison is to look at the residential rate, because if it's an ERU basis, the majority of your cities that are doing a ERU basis, the residential that's the residential fee. So if you think about the majority of the accounts in our case are residential, you compare that first column, that's kind of giving you a ballpark. They're all over the place from, I think Piqua over 620 is Piqua. That's probably the highest on per resident.
A lot to think about, a lot to look at. That it?
Yep.
One other, just real quick, not stormwater, just wanted a heads up, next meeting, we're moving forward with our plan for the Q3 property. And one of the requirements that we talked about at the last meeting, when you gave us authorization to go get the property, we'll be coming back, we need to have written authorization that we're committed to our portion of the funding over the course of the 3-year project. So at the time, that wasn't a requirement. Now, as we see the final documents coming out, they're gonna need to see resolution from council saying that we're committed to, support those funds as they need. So you'll see that at the next meeting, so we can keep moving.
In for a penny, in for a pound, let's get it done.
And we're planning on going board revisions next Tuesday, so that'll be when they take any action, but they've already taken action, it's just a matter of getting the thing started, the process.
Class, this